It's a very popular idea these days to say that you are not the voice in your head, that there is some sort of separation between you as a conscious individual and the perhaps unsavory thoughts that you might have that you don't like, right? And let's get this right out of the way. Somebody's gonna misconstrue. I don't mean to say at all that you're the bad thoughts you have. That'd be a stupid thing to say. Like, point blank, that's a stupid thing to say. Nobody's as simple as the bad thoughts they have. But for that reason is why I find myself sort of hating this sentiment, right? Because it does oversimplify it. It does present an idea that you are only the good thoughts you have, and that there is no complexity to you, that there is no sort of bad parts of you. I think this is largely an internet phenomena where you hear this. Of course, as somebody, because I do think it's important to say when discussing a topic such as this one, there are obvious real cases where people are not the voice in their head. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fringe stuff. I'm talking about just on a day-to-day basis. Do not avoid the bad thoughts in your head. I think that that's a bad idea. I think that to say that, oh, there is some sort of separation between who you are and what you think is wrong. I think it's wrong. I think that it's important to understand that we as humans are more complicated than that we as humans carry with us a collective history that is ugly, and we have bad thoughts, and it's okay to think a bad thought and not act on it and understand that it's bad and think through it in that regard, rather than trying to separate yourself from that, right? There are two parts to our head, right? Both of them are ourselves. Nobody's going to say that you are the bad thoughts in your head, but it's also not that you're the good thoughts in your head. You are just the thoughts in your head. Some are bad, some are good. And understanding and parsing through that, I believe, is what makes us us. I'm going to use separation here that Kierkegaard uses, right? Obviously, very important to disclose, this is not real psychology. This has nothing to do with anything. This is just some philosophizing, and I'm using an idea that's from the 1800s or something. This isn't legit stuff. This is just a fun discussion. So Kierkegaard separates the development of personality into what he calls the aesthetic and the ethical, right? And it's important to understand that these two words, when he was using them, had very different meanings, right? Ethical originally was not a word for just what's right and wrong. Ethical meant what is the way to live a good life. If you ever heard of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, that's because it's about what does it mean to live the good life? What is an ethical way to live? More so didn't just mean how do I live and be a good guy? It also meant how do I live a life that is good for me? What does it mean to live a good life, right? Very important to understand. It's sort of think of it as a shorthand for the thought out part of your mind, right? The part that might give a little more credence to ideas and then really critically think before acting. Then there's the aesthetic, right? And that's not aesthetic as in the aesthetics of something. That's aesthetic as in the immediate qualities, right? It's spelled with it's not the A-E, it's just an E, aesthetic, right? It's hard to pronounce. You're gonna hear me lisp through this whole video. And it means the immediate parts of it, right? The parts that are oh man, running might be the good thing to do right now, but it feels really good to sit down and have this cup of hot cocoa, right? That's the aesthetic part of your mind. Kierkegaard makes a separation. I think it's a much better separation, right? Because when we separate our minds, when we think about oh, you're not the bad thoughts in your head, it's a demonization of these thoughts, right? I'm not gonna say there aren't thoughts that shouldn't be acted on, but to understand that oh, there are bad and good thoughts, that's kind of it's kind of an oversimplification of it, right? There's no programmed morality that you're given at birth that comes with, there's no, user manual to being human, and you don't want there to be. I wouldn't want there to be a user manual of what is the right and wrong way to act as a human being. These things do, as much as, it's a tough thing to get your head around, somewhat paralyzing even at times. Morality is based off of the time period you're in. These things change over the course of decades, and we understand new things, and understanding that there are multiple dimensions to you and your thoughts, right? And having a proclivity to parse through these parts of your mind that are not good and bad, but different and will lead to very different results, and understanding what are my thoughts and what will the thoughts that these what are the results that these thoughts will lead to. That's a very important thing. I think that's what makes us human, right? Because to separate these parts of your mind into something as simple as good and bad is, one, it oversimplifies us, and two, all of us have, and will continue to do bad things, unsavory things. You've been toxic, you've been a hard person to deal with. Everybody's had these moments in their life, but that's what makes you human. And when you deny the first part of that, that's denying the second part too. When you deny that there's going to be some unsavory things, right? Like, you're going to deal with just some people that are assholes. You're going to be an asshole every now and again. When you deny these things, I think that that's denying your very humanity. I think that, especially if you look at like history, right? I don't think it's far off. And I'm not one of these people that thinks you can describe history in a couple words. Like, I don't think there's going to be an end of history scenario. But it's not far off to say that human history has been one massive sort of journey to go from where we started, of being this ruthless and throwing rocks at each other, to where we're going to end being better, right? That's what improvement. What do we say when we want progress? When you go like the goal of all this is progress? What do you mean by progress? Progress is being better as a person, being better as a society, right? And I think that when we deny that this is something that must occur, I truly do believe it's anti-human. I think it's to deny our humanity, right? And I think part of the reason this isn't a very popular idea is because of the fact that it's complicated, right? It's complicated. It's much easier to judge somebody based off the good and the bad parts of their actions, their mind, and go, is this a good person? Is this a bad person? Understanding that there are multiple facets to a person, and being like, what does this look like? And trying to, parse through them and understand, oh, they're not a good or bad person, they're just a person. That's a lot harder than going like, oh, well, they're not the bad thoughts in their mind, but they're acting on the bad thoughts in their mind. So now they're giving in. They're just being a bad person. It's way simpler that way, right? And things just aren't that simple, I don't think. I think it's important to understand that you are your thoughts, but you can strive past them to not be your thoughts. And understanding that you're complicated and that you're gonna mess up, and still, going to be like, okay, I'm gonna try and be better because of that. Because look at like the world around us right now. Look at like how easy it is to just be the worst guy ever. Like on the internet, it's way easier to be a really bad person than it is to be a good person. If you go on the internet and you're, unsavory, you're racist, you're whatever you are, it's way easier to just like, because nobody's gonna come for you. They're gonna go, that's a bad person, and they're not gonna analyze it with any more scrutiny. When you're a good person, you have standards you have to uphold yourself to, right? And understanding that you're neither of these things, and that just giving yourself the grace to grow and keep going, I think is the most important thing. I think it's how we're gonna keep going, and I think that's the only way forward. Genuinely, I think it's the only way forward. And the reason I start with this, and start with like being like or not start with it, but the reason I kind of center this around this idea of like the aesthetic and the ethical parts, is because I think that's a much more productive way of understanding it, right? There are not good or bad thoughts, but there are immediate thoughts you have. There are thoughts that are like, okay, this would feel really good right now, or this is kind of what I want to do. There are these thoughts, right? There are thoughts like that. And the ethical part of your mind is not the good part of your mind. Sometimes the ethical part's going to lead to some really bad things, right? Thinking through every single action is still going to lead to you messing up a lot. But understanding that there are not good or bad, but a critical and an uncritical part of your mind is, I think, much more productive. Because when you remove the words good and bad, when you understand these things rather as just thought and unthought, you allow so much, you build in automatically room to grow. You build in automatically an understanding that maybe they are all their thoughts, but they can choose not to be, and that is, I think, the most admirable thing of all, right? If we're going to talk about good and bad, I think the best thing of all is understanding that you are flawed, that you are, quote unquote, bad. I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to do the quote unquote bad. Just imperfect and still striving to be more. Because I think, I don't know, I like that. I like that kind of not critical thing. I like that kind of nuance to understanding how this all operates, how this all functions. And also, it's much easier to go through life that way, you know? If you have friends and you boil these friends down to good or bad, or they do bad things, or things that you find to be unsavory, you're gonna end up with a lot more trouble on your plate than it's worth. Than understanding, oh, they're just a person. They're just a normal person just like you, and giving them the grace to grow just as you give yourself the grace to grow. You know, there is not one person that can't think of at least 5 things in their life that they did, whether it was when they were 15 or whatever it was, that they don't like doing, that they're like, I wish I didn't do that. I know I did, I have plenty, right? You give yourself, you understand, oh, that's not who I am. I'm gonna give myself the grace to grow. And I'm not talking, I feel like this is kind of veering off into like what could be interpreted as like, oh, like cancel, you know, don't cancel people. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't care about the internet. This isn't really about the internet. This is about how we handle personal relationships, right? You give yourself the grace to grow because you understand that you're not who you were. In a year, that person will be looking back at who they are when they did something and going, I'm not who I am. I'm not who I was then, right? And I just think that that's an important distinction to make. I think it's an important distinction to make in our own minds so we can understand ourselves better and actually give ourselves the grace and the humanity that we should naturally be afforded. And I think it's important to understand each other. That's my take. Final rock here today, probably. This is the best rock. This is a good rock, guys. This is a solid rock. Man, do I like this rock. Yeah. Shout out to this rock. Go check it out on the TikTok and the Instagram. Until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint Talk episode 309. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.